still out in the desert, similar scenario, but without that green horizon. This one, though, is very different. It's slightly longer. It's 3 minutes, 21 seconds. It's in English with subtitles, well lit, good sound, filmed at different angles, and it's got a very different message. Instead of threatening or ending in anything nasty, it's really all about presenting their case that you've got it all wrong. We're going to tell you what life under Islamic State's really like, and it's all good.
And Frank, I mean, people have said that Islamic State are quite sophisticated with their production of these videos, but this looks like a departure, really, doesn't it, as you've said?
Well, I don't know. I mean, yes, in the sense that it doesn't carry any overt threat in it. It's not violent, it's not grisly, it's not horrific in the way that the others were, but it's still, I think, part of a very slick media operation by them. They've got, you know, maybe there are 30,000 fighters, a tiny proportion of those really know what they're doing. They will have studied computer graphics and, you know, this kind of software production, probably at an academy somewhere in the West, maybe in the Middle East. They know what they're doing. And it's very clever manipulation. I mean, you know, let's be honest, everybody expected yet another grisly, you know, as soon as somebody said another video, we thought, here we go, you know, this is going to be horrific. This is very different. And it's almost like, I mean, it's like a kind of Scheherazade storytelling thing. The longer this person can carry on telling, you know, doing these things, the safer he is for the time being.
And presumably now, I mean, analysts within the British security services will be going through this video minutely, trying to drag out any little clues they can.
Yes, I don't think they're going to get that many. I mean, there's no... it names him. We're not going to name him at the moment. I mean, you know, some people are going to say, well, why are you breaking this? Because it's frankly already out there in social media, and other media organizations have already put it out there. So the video and the name and the whole thing is already out there. It's I think, another form of twisting the knife in Western public opinion. You've got to remember that against the backdrop of this, President Obama has announced this huge, great big coalition, which has yet to actually go into full action against the so-called Islamic State. I think they're probably slightly holding their breath. There are reports that some of their forces have withdrawn from Raqqa, that they've dispersed in advance of expected airstrikes by the Americans and Emiratis or whoever else is going to do it. So this is their way of hitting back. It's a kind of asymmetric warfare.
And in terms of what the British government do, I mean, Philip Hammond was saying the other day, we just don't know where these Islamic State hostages are. I mean, it was quite an unusual admission in a sense. We just have no idea.
He's been criticised for that. You know, some people say you should always leave an element of doubt. I think it's refreshingly honest and frank, but of course it's also quite depressing. I mean, they know that they probably have been held in the area of Raqqa. The US Special Forces mission that went in to try and save them on July the 4th, they went to an oil facility just outside Raqqa. There were signs that they had been held there, but they'd been moved. There was one report that said they were there all along, but they'd been held underground in, you know, reinforced chambers where you can't get any mobile signal in or out. I mean, that's part of the problem, is that it's very difficult to track down where they are. Now, if the bulk of their forces are indeed leaving from Raqqa and dispersing, it's possible they're on the move, but it is extremely difficult to track them down. They will have almost certainly been dispersed, and they will have spent a lot of their time, I'm fairly certain, either in a locked room or actually underground, with very little mobile communication between their captors and each other.
And as you say, we're not naming this hostage, but it's worth reiterating it's not Alan Henning.
It's not Alan Henning, who was the one who was threatened at the end of the last video put out by the so-called Islamic State. There is no word of him, and I think it's important to mention that today, Thursday, over 100 British imams and Muslim leaders in Britain have all joined together to plead for him to have his life spared. Now, I don't know, given the very fluid and dynamic situation in Syria and Iraq, whether news of that has reached the leadership of Islamic State. I think it must have done. It might be giving them pause for thought. It might not. But clearly I think this one seems to have been prepared quite some time in advance. I don't think this is in reaction to that. If it is, it would be an incredibly rapid response, but it's really been quite slickly put together, as I say, filmed with at least 2 cameras, different angles, good lighting, good sound, well scripted, and it's being made under duress. Doesn't appear to be speaking as somebody who is even though he's trying to adopt a casual pose at a desk, almost like you people, like newsreaders. You know, it's a parody of a chat show. You know, at the end, he talks about in the coming programmes, I'm going to give you, you know, some things that will surprise you.
Yeah. OK, Frank, really interesting. Many thanks for coming in to fill us in. Thanks.
Frank Gardner there, our security correspondent. Now, the BBC has lodged a formal complaint with the Russian authorities after a news team was attacked in southern Russia while working on a story linked to the fighting in Ukraine. The BBC team is now safe and well and back in Moscow, and it's from there that our correspondent Steve Rosenberg now reports.
Oksana tells me about the brother she calls a Russian hero. Konstantin fought in Chechnya and Georgia. This summer, he performed his final mission.
When he called to say he was going away, he sounded kind of scared. He said, "I'll be heading